the last question, but no pressure.
Okay, no pressure at all.
What's your name?
I'm Darlene. Thank you very much for coming and everybody for attending. It's quite the crowd. My question is, well, first, the Law Amendments Committee have been trying to pass Bill C-59, and that has to do with persons with disabilities. And my question for all the candidates, I'd like to see that passed. However, I'd like to see it passed not in 30 years' time, a little bit sooner would be more appropriate. For the education, they talked about housing, they talked about hiring. Persons with disabilities have a hard time getting a job. It doesn't matter if they have university degrees or community college degrees, it doesn't matter. Because the government expects the private businesses to hire. Now, the government needs a really good reality check because private business will not hire anyone with a disability. I shouldn't say that, I might have to stand corrected on it. They hesitate to hire people with disabilities because the government is not leading by example and doing the hiring. Okay? I want to know, whichever party gets in, and I want to hear it all from all of you, what you guys plan to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. Our first speaker to this question is Devin.
Thanks very much, Darlene, for the question. I guess I should let you know that Bill 59 did pass this spring. So we now have the framework legislation in place to build out regulations for all manner of business, all manner of programs and services throughout Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia is only the 3rd province in Canada to have such accessibility legislation. And I'm pleased to sit in front of you today to tell you we wouldn't have that legislation if I was not the member for Eastern Shore. Even though I'm the Speaker of the House, trust me when I tell you that I had a lot to do with getting that through and making sure that we have the first building block in place to level the playing field for persons with disabilities. As you know, and I know I'm speaking to the converted when I speak to you, but Nova Scotia has the highest per capita rate of disability in Canada, one of the highest in the entire world at nearly 20%. You do some quick math, 1 million people roughly in Nova Scotia, that's about 250,000 people, or 200,000 people that this legislation can directly affect. When you throw in the fact that everybody has a family and friends, pretty soon we're talking about just about everybody. And I'll go back to my message about enabling and empowering not only individuals, but enabling and empowering the economy to take advantage of persons with disabilities who want to enter the labor market, who want to be full participants and contributors to our community. So we have made great strides and we are seen as a leader in Canada and in fact throughout the Commonwealth in our position on persons with disabilities. So thank you.
Thank you, Devin.
Thank you for that question. And another issue that is, once again, near and dear to my heart because it is something that I work with every day. And I go back to the education aspect of it because that's where it needs to happen. Because I am fully supportive of any legislation that's put in place to help people with disabilities in terms of gaining employment. But we also have to do that in the public system. And right now, we need to make sure that those sports are available for anyone with any type of disability. And that is through inclusion. And that policy is a very important one, and one that some people believe that inclusion is not the answer. For me, it is the answer, because without inclusion, you have segregation. And what happens after they graduate from grade 12? Well, they've been segregated from the people that they will then be interacting with, working with, and collaborating with. So inclusion is a big part of that, and something that's been in the teachers' agreement since 1996, and nothing has been done with it.
Thank you very much, Devin. Patricia, go ahead.
Thank you very much for the question, and This is great work that Bill C-59 has been passed. I can tell you that I worked with people experiencing disabilities for about 8 years when I first got out of school, and that would be disabilities including people with cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, autism, and including children who have behavior challenges as well. I think that we need to support our businesses to hire people with disabilities, to make sure employment, gainful employment, meaningful employment is accessible, and I am certainly behind all legislation that will make that happen.
Thank you, Patricia. Randy, you're batting cleanup on the last question.
Well, the only disabled population that I'm really familiar with, of course, is the mentally ill. And for $110 a month is what they get for food. You can start from there, and just imagine how healthy you would be with those kind of a pension. Now, we did start a couple of shelter workshops, one in Halifax, that made bagels and donuts, etc., for people post-mentally ill. And believe it or not, and hear it is and hear it well, Sobeys had a fit because they believed that they were competing against them using government grants. The shelter workshop was getting government grants. So they made them make their donuts and bagels kosher. So they wouldn't, because Sobeys wasn't selling them at the time. They were selling these things in their stores. There's a lot of competition out there, even for people with disabilities. I used to pay started a program in my small options where I used to pay my residents, if you will, so much a month to clean their rooms and to try and get them used to working in a defined area. I used to pay them $50 a month, as it was called a Project 50, to take their medications, which saved the province hundreds of thousands. They stopped me. They wouldn't allow it. So I don't know where you go from it, but I know I would do whatever. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you to you for your questions, for your attention. You're great interviewers. Give yourselves a round of applause. And now it's time to turn to the closing statements.